welcome everybody. If that name is familiar, it should be, because welcome to the new VHS Vault, where everything has changed except us two. Is that right, Jace?
Yes.
Maybe?
And that makes things worse.
If you haven't heard of the VHS Vault, go check out Jason's YouTube channel. We'll be able to check out some of our older version, the bootleg versions out on the channel. But basically what this is for everybody new, this is a show where we talk about some of the classic films, what we consider classic films or strange films, guilty pleasures, whatever you want to call it.
Unguilty pleasures, things you watch and you're ashamed of, things you wonder, how did that get made?
Exactly. And that's what we're kind of doing here. And this show, guys, we want you guys involved. So if there's a film out there that
I'm rather against the idea, but okay.
If you think there's a film out there you think that we, both us, Jason, should be talking about, please comment below this video or send a message to us. However you're going to let us know about the film you want us to talk about. And with a bit of luck, we'll talk about it on the show. But tonight, Jason, to welcome us back to the VHS Vault in our new home, we're going to talk about, I think, a classic.
Absolutely.
Classic horror film from the 80s, and that is A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors. And guys, in case you're wondering, that in fact was the VHS cover for here in Australia for that film. So
it's casual Freddy. He's just sitting there waiting for a child to fall asleep, making small talk with the Easter Bunny.
He's confident. Yeah, he's confident.
I can't believe you're about to kill more kids, Freddy.
Shut up, Bunny. That's what I do. You hide eggs, I kill the kids.
Before we dive deep into this, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video, comment below, all that kind of good stuff. But also, before we get into this plot, Jason, we're going to talk about your first experience with Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Oh, goodness. My first experience with the Dream Warriors. This is another one of those movies that, to me, has just always existed, and I came out of the birth canal already quoting it. I want to say that I saw it on VHS a long time ago on one of those hard-shelled VHS players that you would rent from the store because you were too poor to afford one. I watched it and I loved it. I think a lot like the Friday the 13th movies, I think I watched it out of order. So this could have been the first one that I saw.
Wow.
But I've been in love with this movie forever.
You know, it's interesting because if this is the first film you saw, there's no problems with this being the first film. It's actually a good entry point.
It's great, yeah.
My first impression was, I did actually see this at the cinema because at that point I had been going to the cinemas. I did see it. I was very excited to see it and had a very positive experience. And on VHS, just wore the tape out like everyone else. Why did I love this movie, Jason? And I thought about this a lot. How do I encapsulate my thought on this? To me, this film is like the MTV generation writ large on screen in a horror package. I mean, it is high concept as you get, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and then let's think about it. They're coming up to the third film here, Jace, right? So they've done one, they've done two. Two maybe didn't get the reception as one did.
It actually made more money than the first one.
Wow. There you go. So, didn't know that.
Wes Craven did not want to, he was not involved with part 2. He thought that this cannot make a franchise. It's not going to be any good. So he didn't have anything to do with part 2. And then New Line came up to him and said, part 2 just outgrossed part 1. And Wes Craven said, you know what? Maybe there is a little bit of a franchise to be had here. So Wes Craven came back in a supporting capacity for this movie. And the most interesting thing is he wanted to make a very meta movie about the making of a sequel where the bad guy, Freddy Krueger, was actually a demon that had to be contained with stories. He didn't make this one, but that eventually became New Nightmare many, many years later, which I think, I don't know if I want to say too much about that right now, but let's just say if you haven't seen that one, it is a hidden gem.
No doubt. He was a co-writer, I believe, on this film. So
he was, yes. And
I do believe it's
along with a man that you may know because he was nominated for Oscars as a writer and director, Frank Darabont of Shawshank Redemption.
That is incredible.
Yes, he was one of the writers on this movie as well.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense because it is probably the strongest script and characters they have in this franchise to date. And the whole idea of taking that concept, Jason, of nightmares and setting it inside a asylum and having the young teenagers having to deal with that together, it's a great idea. I don't think you can really, if you have any issues with the film, I don't think you can pick on that core idea because it's a good idea. There's no doubt about
I
it.
have to agree, and I think that this movie does what Stranger Things does so well, is that it puts young people in a situation where they are in danger and no one believes them.
Good
Because
point.
yeah, it's that classic. I think to me, it is the most horrifying thing. We see it in It. We see it in a bunch of other movies like The Gate, where kids are aware of a danger and they are at a disadvantage because no one believes them. But what I like about A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is that these kids have allies who believe in them. There's Nancy, there's the doctor. They believe these kids and they're there to help them. But through it all, it's still the unbelieving adults that are almost the secondary antagonists because they're almost like Freddy's allies. And I love that. There's just so
Especially
many layers upon
the
layers in this
director of
movie.
the asylum. She's
Absolutely. And she is not a bad person. She actually thinks she's doing the right thing. And
She's
that is what
following
makes her so,
protocol.
yeah. She thinks that she's the hero. She thinks she's doing the right thing. She thinks she's protecting the kids. And
From
I
a
just
couple of
love that.
nut job doctors who are
Yes.
feeding them medication they shouldn't be having.
Quite honestly, if I was an impartial observer, I'd be like, Nancy and this guy need to be thrown out of here. These kids are in danger. Yeah, I'd be right there next to her side.
Now, we get introduced, as we normally start with these Friday films, with a good dream sequence. And I especially like the opening of this a lot.
I do too, yes.
And I'll tell you why a couple of things I really, really love about it. I like the fact that we see this close up. It's almost like a reflection of Freddy making his gloves in the first one.
Yes.
But we're seeing this girl in close up make this paper mache thing, which we don't know what it is at this point. But it's the house.
Yes.
And the way we're introduced to it is phenomenal. In fact, Jace, you have to stop me because sometimes I get confused which order they came in. But I do believe this opening sequence, when she goes into a dream, we go into that room with all the bodies of the previous
where they're all
victims of
hanging.
Freddy.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Before we get there, can we just send a shout out to Kristen's horrible mom? That horrible
she's
human piece of garbage mom, you horrible human being. Why did you have children?
Here she is here, but she that's later on in the film, but appropriate.
Terrible human being, an absolutely horrible human being.
What makes it even more horrible, it's not only that opening scene where she's like, look, I'm trying to get some here. Now, go away, get to bed. It's her attitude when she goes to drop her off.
Oh, I know. I see, just trying to get attention.
I don't have time for this. Like, it is unbelievably horrific.
It
but
is.
we need to shout out the main girl in this, which, again, going back to the opening scene, the main girl in this.
The great Patricia Arquette.
Patricia Arquette, who, mate, oozes talent. And even in one of her early performances, she carries this film so, because there's a lot riding on her shoulders. I mean, she is the main key protagonist.
This was her first movie, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Excellent job. And again, that shot that I've just shown here, what an excellent scene to start this film.
Freddy is just gloriously sneaky in this movie. He's just manipulating everyone, and it's just amazing.
It is. And that opening with the taps coming up and then slitting her wrists.
All practical in-camera effects.
That's the true hero of this film.
Yes, absolutely. I love
the practical effects in this film, Jason, are at a pinnacle, I think, at this point, their practical effects, because they do things which we'll talk about in this review that they wouldn't even attempt to do practical these days.
Oh, no.
They did it then because they had no choice. So.
I had the privilege. I rewatched this movie today in preparation for today's show, and I had the privilege of watching this with my godson who's visiting me right now.
Great.
And he's never seen this movie before. And I said, you know what? And I'm going to say it right now. This is the best Nightmare movie, in my opinion. So I said, this is the best Nightmare movie. If you've never seen one, watch this one. And his comment that he kept saying was, the effects in this movie are amazing. That looks incredible. Wow, look at that. And the thing that he was gushing over, which I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, the Freddy snake.
Yeah,
He just kept going on about that looks amazing. That looks
it's
great.
huge.
Yeah.
It was huge, Jason.
Even
that thing on
even
set.
the facial expression on the snake. You can tell it's Freddy. You can see that sneer of disgust when he recognizes Nancy. It's amazing puppetry.
It
work.
is so great. It is that. In fact, that scene, which is also early on too, is just like we are raising the stakes in this movie,
Yes.
big time. But before we do kind of get there, yeah, it's a really good setup, and they're being sent to the Western. Is it called the Western Hills Psychiatric
Western
Hospital?
Hills Psychiatric Hospital.
Back when they had psychiatric hospitals, not so many these days.
Yeah,
But,
Reagan kind of took care of that, didn't he?
yeah. But yeah, it's a great concept. We get introduced to all these kids, and we'll show them as we go through. But I think why it really works too, because we're not immediately showing Nancy. We know Nancy's in the film, but it's really it's nice that they're making about the main girl, and Nancy becomes a very important side character. But when Nancy does come in, they use her to introduce all the other characters.
Yes,
which is
it's
fun.
really well written. Yes,
really well written, and they've all got their issues. I mean, I don't know if you've got the list of all the characters, but
well, we have Joey, who is mute because of some kind of trauma. We have Taryn, who is a recovering drug addict.
Yep.
We have Roland Kincaid, who is angry. He's angry. We have Will, who is bound to a wheelchair because of an accident. I don't know if they really ever explain what
they
it
don't
was.
really. We have a feeling. I have a feeling it has to do with why he's in there. But
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. And then we have Philip, who is a up and coming master of puppets, and I don't really know if they really said what was wrong with him either, but I know he was a suicide risk.
Yeah, he was a suicide risk, and they kind of established that.
Every single one of these characters, even the ones who are not in the movie that long, are fantastic characters. I really cared about every single one of them. Yeah, this is one of those movies where when a character is killed off, you're not going, "Yeah, you are sad," and each death holds a weight.
And they don't muck around too much.
No, they don't.
Because once we get Nancy having the group meeting with everybody, and everybody's kind of getting to know each other, we then struck that evening. Freddy strikes, and he's ready to have a crack. What I don't know, and what I was going to ask you is, did you know when you were first? Because it shocked me when I'd forgotten about the fact the reason he's attacking these kids because they're the last of the Elm Street kids.
They're the last ones, yeah.
Which is a really cool concept again, that he's cleaning house.
Well, this was written with the intention to be the last Nightmare on Elm Street movie. They were just going to say it was a trilogy and that was it. So, yeah, the fact that these are the last of the Elm Street kids is, it's really neat. They kind of revisited a few years later with Freddy's Dead to somewhat of a lesser success.
Yeah.
But, I thought that it was great. There is this sense of finality, like this is the last stand.
Well, obviously, guys, you haven't seen this. The spoilers galore. We're going to be jumping over the place.
Oh yeah, if you haven't, I'm sorry. Spoilers for the 35-year-old movie.
Yeah, but if you're killing off your main character at the end, you're trying to tie up the franchise, pretty much, aren't you?
You said, I'm done with
the
this.
Puppet Master's death. When I think about
poor Philip,
when I think about this movie, for some reason, that image of him being pulled by his veins like a puppet, it's just the first thing that pops into my head. So disgustingly cool.
Sadistic. Freddy is a bastard in this movie.
And he is loving
He
there's a moment when he's on the roof and you see like Freddy just cackling with absolute wonder and joy at the fact that,
Yeah, this is one thing I was telling my godson is that this is the movie where Freddy gets his wicked sense of humor, but they don't overdo it. It's sinister and it's evil, and he's not just making jokes just to pop off pop culture references and talk about the Power Glove. He's cracking jokes because he's enjoying what he's doing, and he knows it's just one more way he can make people suffer. Freddy Yeah,
It-
he's such a menace in this movie.
He's in his prime. This is probably ultimate Freddy. I don't
Yes.
think that ever gets better than this across the entire franchise.
Yes, I fully agree. The claymation Freddy, by the way, another reaction from my first time viewer friend was just, wow, look at that. That's amazing.
Puppet master.
No one does claymation like that anymore. And he's right.
No.
Nobody does, except maybe Leica Studios.
And that's really interesting to see a younger generation responding so positively to real effects, and to me gives me the hope that as we go along, CGI might become maybe not the most important way of doing special effects moving forward. That would be my hope anyway.
The sequence with the Freddy worm, for example, whenever
Yes.
Patricia Arquette is in the room and the wall is buckling behind her and the
Yeah.
drywall is just exploding off of it, and it's all done in one take. That would be something that would be done with CGI nowadays, and it would look like garbage.
It would look like garbage.
Yeah,
and
but right there,
but
there's
that
this sense
worm-
of just danger as that room is just falling apart around her. It's spectacular.
dude, the worm picks her up at one point and slams her back down.
Yeah.
That's in
Yeah.
camera.
It is. That
There's
is
no
an
post done
in-camera
on that.
effect. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it was done after the director said cut. It's fantastic.
And not only you got this really gorgeous moment in the film, because it is gorgeous in the sex being a horror fan and seeing them execute that scene, it becomes a really important plot point in the movie because that's where we establish that she can bring others into her dreams.
Yes.
Because that's how Nancy comes in and stabs Worm Freddy in the eye, which I did enjoy quite a lot.
There's that moment whenever Freddy recognizes her and then she recognizes Freddy, and I love she just gets this look of absolute horror on her face and just goes, "Oh my God, run!"
Yeah.
And she's not messing around. It's not,
No.
this can't be Freddy. This can't be true. No, she's not messing around. She's ready to run.
Yeah, 100%.
I got so into the movie that I actually stopped making notes after that scene.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, let's talk about the Nancy thing, and this is probably the long stretch that we have to buy in as an audience member, because really only 3 years before, she's a teenager. Now she's told she's young, but I would suggest she's around the 30 mark, late.
Yeah,
20s.
she's a grad student in this movie.
She's-
So I don't know. If she's
25,
really
26?
good, maybe she's 24, 25, something like that. Yeah.
Mm.
Still got her gray hair, which is cool.
Oh, mate, to have the rogue haircut going, because
Yeah.
it's straight out of X-Men Rogue, I'm down for that. I'm good with it.
Absolutely.
No, and to bring her in, but to bring her in as not just a savior, but as someone who's still dealing with the trauma because she's heavily medicated, as
Yes,
the
she
other
is.
doctor finds that little like prescription, and
Yes.
he's very, and I can't remember the name of that actor. He's very much an '80s actor. I think
He
puts a
was.
great
I was just saying he
performance.
was in a movie called Ghost Story a
Ah.
long time ago that I loved. His name is Craig
Yes.
Watson.
Yeah, very good in this film.
Yes.
Very good playing a moral center character in this film. Somebody who has to take a leap of faith, because he does at certain
He does
points.
several times, and
Yeah,
I really liked his character in this movie. He could have
Yeah,
been very unlikable, or
Exactly. Or it
too
could have
much
been
of a,
very much convenient, but it
yeah,
plays well.
No, it plays well. He knows that he's taking risks. He has those moments like, oh gosh, what have I done?
Mm.
But yeah, he's somebody who cares about the kids too, and I think it's that care that leads him to take those risks.
The kids are all damn likable, aren't they? They're all
are.
likable.
They are. I have a soft spot for every single one of them. That's what I said. Whenever one of them gets canked in the story, it hurts. And I actually have a story here about Ken Sagos, who plays Kincaid. As an actor, he didn't want to audition for the role, but his agent talked him into going. And so on the date of the audition, it was raining heavily, and he had to catch a bus to the location. He showed up drenched and had to sit and wait for a few hours for them to get to him. So when it was his turn, director Chuck Russell told him, "Do whatever you want to do to convince us that you're good for this role." And at that point, Mr. Sagos was so frustrated and mad about the entire ordeal, he just yelled at them, and then told them "F you," and then proceeded to scream and curse them out. And Russell immediately hired him. And that's Kincaid right there. But you know,
Because he
Sagos,
brought it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Ken Sagos could have made this character just a brute and a stereotypical 80s thug, but didn't. Kincaid has got a heart to him. And it's a
He
flawed
is.
heart, but he does have a heart. He
Well,
does care about people. He just doesn't want them to know.
I feel like he's on the outside the bravest, but inside he's the most scared, and
He
that's why it
is.
works for
He
me
is.
because he's externalizing his fear with anger and violence, which I think looks very, very well.
Speaking of anger and violence, Battle Cat is outside my door, and she's like literally beating on it to get in.
You can let her in if you like. There's
I
no
have to
problem
because she's
there.
okay.
Go let her in. 'Cause
Speaking
I
of
wanna talk,
speaking of my own little dream
Yeah.
warrior over there, cats.
But when Jace comes
my
back-
podcast, I'm talking about Freddy Krueger. You furry little turd, get in here.
Well, what we are going to talk about when Jace comes back is, I think, probably the one of the most iconic kills from the film, and certainly takes the
We probably have about 10 minutes of her at my door meowing.
Yes, absolutely. I was just saying to the audience, we're coming up to the next kill, Jason, now, which I think is one of the most iconic kills. And it's basically the young, I think this is the kill number 2, the young girl who's wants
yes.
to become a Hollywood star.
Yes.
Who's going to go to Hollywood and become an actress.
Yes.
And certainly is a smoker at that point, obviously dealing with her trauma by smoking a lot. And certainly, like everyone, is still having horrible dreams. I must say at this point too, I don't think the group has put it together. They're all dreaming about the same dude, right? Have they? That hasn't been uncovered at this point.
I think a few of them have. I definitely think that I can't remember the characters' names. Will and Joey have figured it out because they're guarding each other at that point.
That's true.
I don't think the group has come together and basically admitted, yeah, we're seeing the same guy.
Yeah, well, it's when Nancy articulates it like, this is the guy, and then they'll go, holy crap, it all makes sense. But it's the girl who wants to become an actress. Who's the kill? It is probably we're getting into ridiculous territory here.
Yes.
But it works so well for me.
It works.
Yeah.
This is Freddy's first big line that got a laugh. And
I think it's the funniest line out of the movie.
Welcome to prime time.
BITCH.
BITCH.
Female dog.
That got the biggest laugh, and I think it was simultaneously the best line Freddy ever had and the worst thing to ever happen to Freddy, because I think the execs saw that and was like, we need to make Freddy funny.
Yeah,
and
we need to make him part of different objects and things like that, because we had the antennas coming out of his head and all that kind of thing. That's not ridiculous for me. What's ridiculous for me, right, is Lawrence Fishburne, who's in this film, guys, mind you.
Yes.
Reaction to that death.
Obviously suicide.
How did she leap up 3 feet in the air and get her head stuck into the monitor?
It's a Naked Gun moment. Because they all talk about how she killed herself, and you literally see her with her head in the TV hanging off the ground at least 3 feet in the air, and then later they're talking about, yes, obviously suicide.
Wow.
So she must have took herself by surprise.
So we are kind of getting into that territory, but they're really smart here by still somehow keeping it grounded. If that's possible, they're doing it. And I think that's Chuck Russell as a director. I don't know if you know of Chuck Russell as a director. If you look up his IMDb, I think you'd be surprised with a couple of the films he's done. But anyway, I mean, at this point, we're all locked in, right? We've got a film that's humming along, it's pacing along, kids are dying left and right.
Yes, definitely.
But
definitely.
That could have been enough, Jason.
Scorpion King, really? He directed.
Yeah, maybe not that one. Go back a bit more.
The Mask.
There you go.
Ew, Eraser.
Yeah. I don't completely hate that. Had a cool gun in it.
Okay. He actually directed one of my favorite horror movies, The Blob, the remake from 1988.
That's what we were getting at.
Movie.
Yeah, The Blob, which is an incredible movie.
It is. It's so gross.
Please recommend that. If that's a movie you want us to review, recommend that movie. We could have left it at that. We had the kids being killed, and we got a high concept kids being killed in the asylum. But no, they don't just leave it there. There's a lot of lore building in
incredible lore, because I've said before, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is not only a Freddy movie, it's a ghost story, and it is so good.
What was your reaction of that, of the discovery of where Freddy came from?
I loved it. I loved the whole story. I loved the whole bit with the nun, and I loved the whole reveal about the nun at the end of the movie. As
Yeah.
I said, it was a ghost story, and it was nice. It was actually scary. It kind of stayed with you after that.
The story of how Freddy is it really stuck with me for years.
Yeah, the
Because
son
I
of a
actually found that
thousand
more
maniacs.
disturbing than what was actually shown on screen was the
The
story of
description.
how
Yeah.
it was horrible, you know. But I love it because of that. I love that they've actually taken this and they're giving us backstory. They're giving us again goes into your theory, Jason, that this was the last of a trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very much. But Freddy's out there killing to a point where they actually realize they have to band together, don't they? To kind of the only way they're going to get past Freddy is to work together.
Yes, and I did like that where it was almost what my grandmother would call a coming to Jesus meeting, where they all sat together and Nancy
group
says,
hypnosis.
"Yeah, you're all seeing the same guy, aren't you? You're all
Mm.
seeing a dude in a green and red striped sweater." And they're all like, "Yeah, we're all seeing him. He's coming after us." And I think right there, it's kind of like the pact was made. We need to stand against this guy. We need to become Nightmare on Elm Street 3, the Dream Warriors.
Yeah, we need to become that. But don't you also see it's kind of like a allegory of Generation X, you know, having to fix the problems that the boomers, the previous generation caused?
Friggin' boomers. Ugh.
Bloody, even in Nightmare on Elm Street, the boomers are a
No, the
problem.
boomers are ruining everything. Freddy's a boomer. The people who killed him are boomers.
Yeah.
Gen X has to clean up everything.
Has to clean up.
And then they wonder why we're all so bitter and why we don't care about anything.
Exactly.
It's because you're unleashing demons on us.
I like the group hypnosis.
We have boomers who are watching this going,
how do I stop this video? It has hurt my feelings.
Oh, but even as a kid, you know, your grandparents would want you to record something next Wednesday on a VCR. Ugh, you'd be on the phone for hours. Either way, the group hypnosis scene, which I really, really enjoy because I love where they think it doesn't work, but it does work.
It does work, yes.
And I thought that was a nice little moment. We are now taking that strap into the dream world.
Can we talk, though, about Joey in this scene? Because Joey is no doubt the dumbest of the Dream Warriors.
Yeah.
I know he can't talk. I know he's got issues, but never once did he think to himself, this is a dream. Never once. Hot nurse basically throws herself at this obviously underage kid, gets naked, because we got to have our TNA in the movie, and then just throws herself at this. What is Joey, like 15 in this movie? Which is
if that. Like
I know Ronnie Eastman was not 15, but Joey looks like he's 15 in this movie.
Yeah, like it's problematic.
Kind of gross.
Yeah.
Not even kind of gross. It is gross.
Oh,
but
well,
never once this kid goes, oh yeah. Oh, I'm dreaming, aren't I? That would have been funny. Just he's sitting there in the bed. Yay! Oh wait. Oh no.
So, the tongue.
Guess what? You're Freddy. You're Freddy. I know. Yeah. Okay, just kill me. I deserve it at this point. The tongue was gross, and I loved it.
Yeah. It's pretty great. But they all start working together, and I think it's because they don't know that Joey's been attacked at this point.
No,
they're all stuck
because they're all kind of dumb at this point too. This is the part of the movie I have the biggest problem with, is that they're all like, "Look, we have powers! Yay! Has anyone seen Joey?"
Yeah.
And the best part is whenever they're looking for him, they're like, Joey, what are they expecting him to do? Is he over on the other side of the wall going?
Yeah, I'm being attacked. Yeah, there's not much you can do. And that idea works so well for that film in that time period. Although if they tried to pull that in a film today, oh my God, we've got powers, we would reject it instantly because
absolutely,
2 out of 3 things made these days include somebody who has some sort of power. So but it works so well in this.
Have the nerds going Marvel fatigue? We're over it. Oh my God,
over it. Yeah. So, but it works really well in this. Can I talk about John Saxon returning? Nancy's dad.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just because I'm a big fan. And again, when we talked about the lore building, I really like his inclusion in this film. It adds extra dimension, and he does have to help.
It makes sense, yeah.
Well, he's a boomer, and I love the fact that they've grabbed him and gone, "Hey, mate, you caused some of this mess. You're
Yeah.
going to come and help clean it up," which I absolutely love. So,
I just love the fact that he goodness.
what is Battle Cat up to?
Battle Cat and Demona are fighting each other right now.
Ah.
They don't care. Battle
don't
Cat's looking
care.
at me like you knew.
One thinks number 2 is better than number 3. That's what I think the
Yeah.
fight's over.
Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Holy hand grenade.
Holy hand grenade.
Okay.
Now the actual ultimate battle. We probably should get to the ultimate battle where they're
The
all
ultimate
going
battle, yes.
to attack Freddy. How did you feel about that? Because we get into some ridiculous things now.
Well, there's a couple of things about the last third of the movie that I actually have a little bit of a problem with.
yeah,
And I think I don't think that this was even anticipated by the people that put this movie together, how much the audience was going to fall in love with these characters. And
Yeah.
so just like bam, bam, we lose 2, and it's almost meaningless in the movie. We lose Taryn through, Freddy saying, "Let's get high." And then we lose Will
Pretty
because he was dumb and he ran at Freddy Krueger shooting, Emperor Lightning at him. It's done so quick that it's almost like an afterthought by the movie. But at the same time, I'm sitting there thinking, I liked these kids. I did not want to see, I didn't want to see harm come to them. And unlike the other deaths in the movie, this one has no weight to it. It's almost like it didn't matter at all. And I was very upset by that, especially considering, Jennifer Rubin, who played Taryn,
yeah,
has often said over the years that fans have come up to her and said, "Your part in this movie made me quit drugs."
amazing,
Yes.
great. That is incredible to hear.
And the fact that they just killed her off like that was sad. Now, I'm going to say again, I don't think that the filmmakers really understood exactly how much these actors were going to bring to these characters, because they were written to be just little nerds and drug addicts in this hospital. But
she does get a great death, though.
She does have a great death,
and it's not her dying; it's the fact of Freddy's reaction as he's injecting the drugs.
Well, it's tragic. It's tragic that she's beaten by the thing that she tried to beat for so many years. And Will's death, to me, was just bad. It was bad.
What, the dungeon master?
Yeah, he becomes the dungeon master, the wizard, and he runs after Freddy doing this, which was dumb.
Yeah, and then as you can see, he gets picked up really easily by Freddy.
Yeah, and it's just, it almost seemed like the whole thing about you have this power, you have this power, you have this power, and then Freddy goes, "No, you don't," and that's it.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen Freddy get hurt or have Will actually do some damage to Freddy and Freddy just pull off like a last minute sneaky win. I would have rather seen that than just have this character's death be a joke, because that's what it felt like to me.
Now, the discovery of when the doctor goes to Nancy's dad and basically calls him out, says, "You've got to help out." He releases that information that, look, the bones we threw in a, I don't know why you throw him in the junkyard, but they did. That's what they did. They buried him out there. Seemed to be an odd thing, because if he'd been set on fire and turned to ash, the bones. But either way, they felt the need at the time to take a mortal human being, execute him, and then bury the bones in a junkyard. So a lot of red flags going on there, boomers.
Yeah, the boomers.
But it
really
helps
have good
for
solutions to anything.
For what they have to do, because you don't really want to talk about. And one thing I love about this film, it goes to Ray Harryhausen.
Oh my gosh, didn't that not look great?
The skeleton, Freddy's skeleton attacking in the graveyard.
And is a menacing looking skeleton too. This is not like a Sinbad in the Seven Voyages skeleton. This is like a nasty, charred, angry skeleton.
Who kicks their backsides.
Does. He beats the crap out of them.
But, we're jumping back and forward. I love the fact the doctor had the sense to go to the church and steal the holy water. So he kind of knew where this was going to end at some point. But that whole junkyard scene, I absolutely love it, Jason. I thought it was a really strong ending to a film that could have still worked by just focusing the kids on the dreams. And the fact of the matter is, the doctor saves everybody's life.
He does. I like that the climax to this movie was basically strung across two worlds that affected each other. That Freddy
Yeah.
had to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth to basically protect his own butt from getting
Yeah.
exercised or just beaten by these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it so much, and it just seemed like it was like this final battle with this demon in it.
Well, they were
was great.
those kids were not going to make it. Nancy and the kids were not going to make it
No.
if the doctor hadn't done, because they were done.
They were done.
They were done. But yeah, Freddie had it all over him, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, we're skimming across some unbelievable visuals in the last third act of the film. There's so much to talk about. The Hall of Mirror Freddies. What else is there, Jason? It's just so much you can go across.
Joey over the pit of fire in
Yes.
the boiler room was
Yes.
just such a great visual.
Oh,
And the
really
tongues
good
letting him
stuff.
go one limb at a time. I
Yeah.
love that whole sequence.
It's just really great. But the fact that at the end of it, Nancy gets to hold him and they pour holy water on it, on the bones, and that sees him kind of disappear. I'm going with it, and it feels like a natural end.
It does. And I was very touched by Nancy's sacrifice and Patricia Arquette holding her saying, "I'm going to dream you into a beautiful place. That was so sad."
It was very sad. And when I watched it again, I'd forgotten that Nancy is toast. And
Yes.
it is a lot of finality to it. And it's just like, really, man? Like, talk about just a dark journey from a teenager. You've had to deal with this trauma. You're attacked by this demon. Then you spend years of your life training yourself so you could, protect yourself from that demon coming back. And then you want to help other people, only to be killed by that same demon that was torturing you and drove you the last 10 years. It's a tragic story. For
It really is. But her and Johnny Depp are together again.
Yeah.
Or, what's
Good
left
old
of Johnny Depp.
vanilla plain Johnny Depp. That's as plain as you ever see Johnny Depp.
She's got a bowl of Johnny Depp in the afterlife. It's like, come on, Johnny Depp, let's go sit on that cloud. Bloop, bloop.
Johnny Depp had a lot of blood. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes, he was juicy. He was a very juicy
he had a
young
lot
man.
of blood.
Yeah.
No, look, this film turns out to be very strong. And I don't know how much it made, Jace. I don't know if you've got those details, but
I can
this
find
thing,
it.
I believe, in my memory, was a massive hit.
I don't see how it couldn't have been because it
had to be
a
because
great
everyone was. Look, I went and saw this 2 or 3 times. I went back with friends. I know everybody was talking about it. It was the big movie of that summer for the teenagers, I believe.
Dream Warriors was theatrically released on February 27th, 1987 and grossed $44.8 million domestically on a budget of just over $4 million.
Incredible. That's 10 times the amount. So it would have cost them $8 million with that and marketing. And that was domestic box office. But this thing was a global sensation, Jason.
Yes.
Like,
It was great. It was a great movie.
It would have hit easily $80 million worldwide. And in the 80s, that's huge.
Absolutely. And the box office draw for the Nightmare movies really didn't fall off until part 5.
Yeah. Well,
And that
there's reason it falls off.
And that was basically when they're like, yeah, let's kill Freddy.
Let's throw a kid in there.
Yeah.
Let's throw a kid.
Let's put Alice Cooper in the movie for some reason.
Yeah. No, overall, this is such a well-made movie. And when you go back to it close to 40 years later, I'm struck at how fast-paced this movie is and how well cut. It feels very much like a modern filmmaker made that film.
It almost feels like you're dropped into the middle of a movie that's already going, but I mean that in a good way. There's very little time spent setting everything up. In a way, you almost feel like you are dropped into a situation and you're as unprepared as the kids are. And I love that.
That's a great analogy to make, because you do feel like that, because everything is a mystery. There's a lot of mystery happening here, and there's a lot of things that have to play out in natural order, including that opening as we talk about, just this girl building a house. Like, what's this all about?
Yeah.
Mind you, hey, set dressing of the house So good, because last time we'd seen that house, it's a pretty good nick. Like after part 2, it's still a pretty good nick.
Yeah.
We get to see it in this one. It is messed up.
Well,
no one's done
honestly,
maintenance for a while.
I don't think Zillow is going to be selling that house anytime soon. It's like, I'm sorry, how many people were killed in there, and it was used for what? Okay, I'm gonna pass on this one. Thank you.
I like also a nice little touch, because we're just jumping. We're nearly done here, guys, but we're just going to jump into our favourite little bits. The fact at the beginning where she's holding one of the little girls who's on the bike. I love it. And you see this basically skeletal baby, and I love that.
I love the fact that it was obviously a doll the whole time she was carrying this.
It looks so obvious, didn't it?
It was one of the few effects in the movie that I thought was bad, which apparently whenever they made this movie, they had created a desiccated, somewhat decayed doll, a child doll, but whenever they looked at it in the dailies, they said, okay, that's too far. Let's just make it a skeleton. But yeah, it's almost like watching a parody movie at that point. Whenever you just hear the little girl's voice coming from this unmoving doll.
You know why it works though? Because you're aware it's a dream.
So,
things like you can kind of forgive it. There's no real play. Well, it's just a dream, you know. I would have made the head maybe move a little bit. Would have been my advice.
Or not had the camera on it at least. It makes the doll from that American Sniper movie look, lifelike.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I think it's still today, if you're a young filmmaker wanted to get out there and you maybe wanted to make a sequel or something, it's a good movie to look at, not only from a script perspective, what you can do if you're frugal, because even $4 million back in the 80s, that's still maybe today a $20 million film. It's not a huge budget.
No.
But they really got bang for buck. So I think it's a great movie to study from that perspective. And the fact that you've made something that, I'll be honest with you, if you talk Freddy Krueger, I bet you 9 times out of 10, an image that pops into somebody's mind is from this particular film.
Most likely, yeah.
So
either that or Freddy playing the Game Boy with Breckenmeyer.
Yeah. Oh, we have been talking about this film the whole time, and I didn't even put up the logo for it. But
oh my gosh!
The producer. What can I say?
What am I paying you for?
I don't know. Are you paying me? So
I don't know.
But there you go. So either way, we had a blast watching Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors.
Best movie in the series. Best movie in the series,
without a question. But we don't know what we're going to watch next week, guys, yet. We haven't decided. We're hoping you guys are going to tell us what to watch for the next show we do in the VHS Vault.
Yes.
I've really enjoyed it. It's great to be back in our new home, Jason. And only on the Jason Roy Gaston channel, where madness ensures and comedy goes to die, correct?
Absolutely. Because if you're not watching, you can't see us.
Oh, well, any last thoughts on Freddy before we get out of here, Jace?
I can only assume these movies are going to get better.
Okay. All right, buddy. All right. I will argue the next film with you about that, because the next film, The Dream Master, I have a lot of respect for, and I do enjoy it quite a lot. The next two besides that?
The first 10 minutes of The Dream Master angered me in ways I didn't think I could be angered.
Well, guys, there you go. If you want to see Jason freak out, recommend Nightmare on Elm Street 4: The Dream Master, and we'll get a good little freak out moment of the first 10 minutes. Yeah. Look, there's some cool stuff. There's an effect in that movie that I still can't figure out how they did it, and that's a truck in the middle of the road being wrapped around a Stobie pole where you see it, but you don't see the Stobie pole.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'm with you. I have no idea how they did it. We need to get a hold of it. Corridor Crew, how did they do it? Figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, that was it.
You know what? Leave a comment. If you have a movie you think that we should watch, whether it's something that is good, something that is bad, a cult movie, a movie that you watch that's like, how did this even get made? Something that we've never heard of that is available for free on some kind of streaming service because we be leave a comment below.
Please do, guys. Thanks for watching. It's great to be here. We look forward to doing a bunch of new shows and reviews on movies that you guys want us to review. Until next time, that has been Jason Roy Gaston from the star of the Jason Roy Gaston YouTube channel and his minion VHS Jace, and we'll see you guys next time.
Battle Cat is my minion. You're my lackey.
I'm hired help.